What's up, punks, trenchies, and death clowns? The following is part of an 8-episode series examining the trans allegory of Lisa Frankenstein. Be sure you've watched the movie first. I will not be held responsible for you being spoiled otherwise. Okay, let's go! Welcome to Tilly's Trans Tuesdays. Tillyvision rolls on in the unintentionally intentional trans allegory of Lisa Frankenstein Part 2. This week we get into what chains our hearts and how awful it is to be seen when you aren't the real you. Hi, I'm Tilly Bridges, your host, and I'm joined by my writing partner, my best friend, my wife, our token cis representation, the lady I've chained my heart to, Susan Bridges. Hello. Our returning guest is Kent Eigengrau, a production assistant, writer, and artist who specializes in sci-fi, horror, and all things genre. He spends his free time doing mutual aid, working on D&D campaigns, collecting vintage sci-fi novels, and hyperfixating on various media. He is a transgender man and has a degree in literary fiction and film production, specializing in genre theory and film adaptation. Welcome back, Kent.
Hello.
Okay, so collecting vintage sci-fi novels, how did you get into that? Because that sounds really cool.
So I take after my grandfather a lot in both good and bad ways. And I think one of the good things that I've weirdly inherited from him is just this strange obsession with like paperback sci-fi things and just
Yeah,
like pulp novels. He just he left this world when I was very, very young. I didn't really get a chance to really meet him truly. I was like probably one or two, so I didn't
yeah.
necessarily know him all that well. But as I grew up, both my mom and my grandmother would constantly be like, "Where did you learn to do that? Why are you doing that? Why is that mannerism that way?" And it just so happened that it was just something random that was something my grandfather used to do. Like I wear my watch on the inside of my wrist because if you wear the face on the outside, it'll hit into things and start scratching the face. And my mom once looked at me like she had seen a ghost when I told her that, because that's apparently exactly what my grandfather used to say and do. But I inherited his love of all things old science fiction. He passed away and just had a trove of just plastic bags, like trash bags full of just paperback books. And
Wow.
I only have a few of those left. My grandmother got rid of them because all of her daughters had daughters, so she thought.
Right.
So she's like,
And girls
well,
don't like sci-fi,
no, of course
so.
not. Why would anybody be interested in these old musty books?
Yeah.
But I inherited them, and the few that I do have sparked a very lifelong interest, and now I collect old rare books and specifically pulp novels and things. I've got just a house full of books behind me. So
I love that, though. That's great. Like, there's something, okay, like really old vintage sci-fi can also be super problematic sometimes, but
absolutely, yes.
but I also, there's like something almost wholesome about parts of it in the way that it, like, the imagination in some of those old stories is
Yeah.
like,
Because they didn't know the
because
science.
they didn't know
It
the
wasn't
science
there
and you
yet.
don't see it these days. And it's like
Yeah.
so wildly out there. And that part I love.
Yeah, no, they do really just half the time they're inventing stuff out of whole cloth just off the top of
Yeah.
their head because they think it would be cool. Other times they're trying to like reinvent mythology And like sometimes they really are people. Like Asimov was very much an engineer, and you can see that sometimes for better and worse in his writing. It becomes very computational at times, strict and strategic, and plot and fancy and character is sometimes left aside for the ideas of the piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just find them kind of wholesome in that way of like this was this was people trying to create a future that they had no idea what it was going to look like.
Yeah.
And they knew that it wasn't going to be published on the same levels of like Shakespeare. They pretty much understood this is going on the slot pile. Some of them were just doing it for money. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I just think that there's something charming about that.
Yeah, there is. And then, the sort of casual bigotries will slap you in the face. But outside
Yeah.
of those, they're
You have
very
to take it
charming.
in
So it's yeah, it's
context.
it's there's balance.
Yes, there's a lot of problematic stuff if you go digging, and you just kind of have to understand that every writer has their problems, and you
Sure.
have to understand that everything is an artifact of its time. That doesn't excuse it. We see this in
Right.
Lovecraft a lot, where you take what you can get from them that is good, and you death of the author what is unnecessary. So I think that that applies itself. I think that it's important to note that if you're interested in that stuff, harden yourself and steel your mind and know that you will come across stuff that makes you go, "Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh."
Yeah.
So,
The thing is, though, like, you will come across those things and it's awful, but like, it's from a long time ago. And I feel like it's even worse when you come across it in like new stuff. Then it's
yes.
really,
It's like you should
that
know
it's
better.
like, come on, come on. But yeah. All right. Well, last time I asked you about the best thing about transitioning. So, on the flip side of that, what has been the worst or most difficult part for you?
Hmm. The most difficult part, I would say so far, the most expensive part has just been dealing with the ever-changing winds of liberty that seem to be going on right now. It seems like every
Yeah.
week they've decided, okay, you get to have your IDs the right way that makes sense, that will keep you safe. I am lucky enough to be in a passing position. I look male, I sound male on the phone, but if I am to go through TSA, I'll probably get pulled aside because I have not
Yeah.
had any physical surgeries yet. I'm working on that, but it's very dangerous to go around with an ID that doesn't have the gender marker that looks like how you are.
Yeah.
People will see that and think you might have a fake ID, or maybe you're trying to deceive them, or maybe you're trying to do other crimes.
Or it even
It's,
just outs you as trans to people who may be
yeah,
hostile to you. Yeah.
precisely. So just trying to get all of my legal stuff sorted has been endlessly more expensive now with the current administration.
Yeah.
And it seems like every other week they're trying to take away passports or change the laws around passports. So I'd say that's currently, I would say, the thing that's on my mind as far as bad. Microaggressions are always fun and
Oh,
interesting to come across.
yeah.
Sometimes I find them funny, especially the unintentional ones, but you can always sort of tell when they're not unintentional. I feel like there's a cutting edge to some of them sometimes that are sort
Yeah.
of like, okay, I'm just gonna roll my eyes and I'll probably never run into you ever again, so we're gonna let it wash past me. But other times it can be funny.
My least favorite of them all, I think, has to be the whole welcome to being a woman or welcome to being a man. Like, we don't know. Like, it's just, come on. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's like I've been in this for a while. The same confidence you have in yourself, cis people, is the same feelings that I have. It's
Right.
just that I have to do somersaults and backflips to get you to agree with that or even recognize that. Not even just believe it, just on its
Yeah.
base. You see this a lot with when you start to pass as a trans man and you go up to people that don't know that you're trans and you try to make friends with like cis boys and they get all like super like broy about things, and that's all fine. You feel accepted. It can be a little bit intimidating at times. But then two things can happen when you tell yourself to be trans to these people, when you come out to them.
Yeah.
Either they go hyper into the broiness of like they
Mm.
overdo it to make sure that you are accepted, which is nice. It's noticed, but it's also like you don't have to overdo the broiness. Like you
Right.
don't have to be like, oh yeah, bro, man, dude. Like you don't have to overdo it. It's fine. Like I got it. The other flip side of that is they don't see you as a man anymore. So
Yeah.
something like if they're dapping up everybody to be like, "Oh yeah, hey man, what's up?" And then all the girls they're giving a hug to, and then they get to you and they're like not really sure what they're supposed to do, and then you get a
Yeah.
hug and you're like, interesting. Okay."
Yeah. 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 I,
Microaggressions, I don't think they mean ill of it. It's just like, oh, that's how your brain has rewired. I see. Okay.
yeah. Well, and I think the problem with microaggressions too is not just that there's one of them, but that there's so many we encounter on a daily basis and they just
Yes, it
add up.
stacks up. It's
Yeah.
something I've told cis people is every time you hear somebody refer to you in gendered language, put a tally on your hand in Sharpie, and then by the end of the day, look at your arm.
Yeah.
It's gonna like every time you hear your name, every time somebody says he or she, every time they refer to you as guys or dude or man, like take note of that as a personal experiment and just see how much it stacks up and think about how many times a day that must affect a trans person in your life. It'll really put it into perspective of how many pieces of straw you can stack on that camel before that back breaks. So
Yeah. That's a really great little exercise. I encourage cis folks out there to give it a shot and see what it's like a little bit.
I also encourage cis folks to stop being weird.
yeah, don't be
That's
weird.
also
A
good.
lot of it just boils down to
You don't need to be weird about it. We're just people. It's fine. Just treat us like people.
it's like, why don't you just hug all your friends? Why
Right?
this gendered
Yeah,
determination
no,
of how you touch
Yeah.
people, you know? That's really creepy kind
Well, our society does that though. It's like, guys shouldn't be too affectionate or touch other guys too
and
much.
it's like, that is so stereotypically
right.
dumb.
It is.
yes,
Stop
yes.
being
It's like
weird.
Yeah.
be better about being affectionate with your friends, not in like a romantic way, but just like the amount of times that like men find themselves like they will carry the compliment of, "Hey man, that's a nice shirt," for like the entire day. Because women are drowned in compliments and men are starving for them.
Yeah.
So it's just like, just be nice to everybody. Just give everybody a hug. Hugs are nice. Hugs are
Yes,
good
Right?
hugs
so
are
long as
nice.
you're like consensual about it. Like,
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, before we move on, be sure that you have listened to part 1 from last week. It came first for a reason and it has context that you need. On we go. 2 minutes and 50 seconds. The Promise by When in Rome plays almost the entire song until the 5-minute mark. Look at those lyrics telling you all that you need to know about Lisa's coming journey. That it starts when we see her love and infatuation with the quote-unquote dead boy says a lot. Read them as Frank, her true self, talking to Lisa, letting her know he'll be there when she's ready. If you need a friend, don't look to a stranger. You know in the end I'll always be there. And when you're in doubt and when you're in danger, take a look around and I'll be there. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking of the right words to say. I know they don't sound the way I planned them to be. But if you wait around a while, I'll make you fall for me. I promise you I will. Yep. That's so transy. Okay. 2 minutes, 53 seconds. Lisa does a rubbing of the gravestone to copy and remember him. She doesn't want to forget him. 3 minutes, 2 seconds. She adds Lisa with a heart over the eye and red lipstick above it. She is infatuated with this dead. To her, man inside has feelings of love about him. 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Look at everything on this bathroom counter: makeup and hair products, a curling iron, things society tells us women and girls need to conform to the rigid gender binary, many of them the dysphoria green-blue, things Lisa feels forced to use to be the person everyone tells her she has to be. And by the way, liking those things doesn't make you a girl or a woman, and not liking them doesn't mean you're not. Regardless of our feelings about them, they're what society says we're supposed to like as women.
I just want to add they do such a good job of like capturing the 80s aesthetic. Like it is wow.
Yeah, the amount of prop work was very impressive. Like again, that
Yes.
bathroom is there's so much stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a line in art department stuff and art direction where y you are hesitant to put too much into a scene, but then there's the flip side of putting like far too many things for the eyes to go to, and knowing when to restrain yourself and when to go overboard is
right.
definitely part of it.
When the point is that there's too much
There's
here.
there's
Yeah.
so- like there's like no counter space
Yeah.
whatsoever in this bathroom because there's just so much like beauty products and like
Yeah.
feminine care products and like just so much stuff that you have to put on and do to just like get even a semblance of what society wants for you, and it's just a mess all over her counter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 minutes, 20 seconds. As she crimps her hair, look at all of that green blue around her, the yellow light right by her eyes. These things send warning signals through her. These are not for you. The pink framing the mirror. Bathrooms are a source of dysphoria and gender conformity. She sees herself in the mirror and averts her eyes. She doesn't want to look at that. 3 minutes, 23 seconds. In this shot, there is even more green blue around her. She is surrounded by dysphoria when doing these things society says she should do, and liking the things society says she should like because they told her she's a girl. 3 minutes, 35 seconds. She spares little glances in the mirror just to try to do the girly things right, but the crimping didn't work. The makeup makes her miserable. None of it brings her any joy. She drops the makeup brush and averts her eyes from the mirror again and hides her eyes from it. Listen to Photos and Reflections in episode 91 to learn how difficult those can be for trans people. 3 minutes and 43 seconds. Despite the misery, Lisa's trying to girl correctly again when Taffy, her stepsister, enters. Taffy is dressed in blue. Being a girly girl holds only sadness in Lisa's eyes. Taffy: I don't think that blush is your shade, Lisa. A girl who does like those things tell her she's doing girl wrong. Lisa looks at
Oof, I
herself
feel
in the
that.
mirror, still miserable, touches her face like something's wrong with it. Is it the blush Taffy mentioned, or is it that that's not her face? Is that the face someone makes if they put their makeup on wrong? Does her makeup even look wrong to you? She can do it however she wants, but dang, that hollowed out despair stare is something you see in so many trans people's photos from
Mm,
pre-transition.
yeah, I especially like the putting makeup on and just not caring about it. Like I very rarely put on makeup. Like I made a point when I was growing up, I was quote unquote a tomboy. I
Mm-hmm.
dislike that term because I'm
Sure.
I'm a boy, I'm not a tomboy, but
Yes.
everybody in my life early on was like, "Oh, yeah, that's the tomboy. That's who that is. I know what box to put that person in." Hmm.
Yep.
But the few times I wore makeup, I did not know what I was doing, and I had other people do it for me because I was just like, I don't want to touch any of this. I don't want to know about any of this. I don't want to know what this is. I don't want to know what this does. Just do
Yeah.
it for me. I'll pretend to just deal with it for as long as I need to. And then the moment I can scrub it off, that was off.
Yeah.
Doing girl incorrectly, that's yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. It's just like I could never really do it right. Even when I was forced to, I was like, I couldn't, there was something wrong. There was something missing there always. I think
Yeah.
that's
I
always
couldn't do
been
boy
present.
right either. It was the same
Yeah,
thing from the
yeah.
other side. I couldn't. I'm like, nope, this is not. I don't know what I'm doing.
Does not compute.
Yeah.
Like I was once told in high school that I wasn't out to people in my high school, but I was once told by a close friend of mine, you dress like a gay man." And I think she meant it as a compliment, but also as a joke. And the
Yeah.
way I took it at the time was, oh, Oh, should I be offended or complimented? So I took it as a compliment. Because I was like, okay, well, yes, correct. I'm bisexual.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a little bit of femininity still in there. There's some queerness in the way that I do my gender. I always try to put a little bit of punk in everything that I'm wearing. So
Hell yeah.
yeah, I wasn't ever really good at girling properly, even when I was trying to. Like I was
Yeah.
always the person wearing pants and wearing suits, even at like graduation and like formal things. And lots of people in my life would be like, "Why aren't you wearing a dress?" I'm like, "I literally don't own one. If you want me to wear one badly enough, you're gonna have to buy one for me because I
Yeah,
don't
that's so
have one."
wild. I came at that again from the exact opposite direction, whereas I hated suits because they were like the most mask-coded thing and they made me feel awful. So it's very interesting, the polar
Yeah, I
opposite
have a collection
responses.
of horrible ties now because I find them endearing. I know people hate ties and neckwear, but they're sort of a coveted item for me now. I like dressing up and I like suits. And
Yeah,
again, going back to that kind of Victorian, kind of gentlemanly kind of aesthetic there, I feel like there's just something like I've always liked that silhouette. I've always liked the way that suits kind of fit on men. So to try and even grasp at that slightly, I think that that was always something that I've wanted. So having a
yeah.
collection of like horrible grandpa ties now is kind of a thing for me.
I love that though. That's great. And I love that they're there for you and nowhere near me. 3 minutes, 48 seconds. Lisa says she'll probably just stay home. There is a gathering, a party, an event, and she's not thrilled about going and being perceived. We see this same thing in The Matrix, discussed in episode 26 and my book Begin Transmission, and in Real Genius, discussed in episodes 103 to 106. A thing that speaks truth about trans people pre-transition. Even if we want to be at a gathering or around people we like, it means being seen as someone we're not and having to put on the act of who everyone says we have to be, and that hurts.
Mm.
Watch in here how rarely Lisa looks at the mirror. She mostly keeps her eyes down, and when she does look up, she tries to look absolutely anywhere else. 3 minutes, 53 seconds. Taffy tells her this party is critical and, quote, compulsory, like the compulsory cisgender heterosexuality of our society that is foisted upon us all. Listen to episode 50 of this show on gendered childhoods for more on that.
I love that she used compulsory.
Right? Compulsory.
It's like so good.
Yes. 3 minutes, 55 seconds. Taffy, you know what your doctor said. You need socialization. Lisa has seen a doctor for a problem she's having, and a medical professional basically said, use more makeup, wear a dress, conform to who we say you should be, and you'll feel better. You only
Uh,
feel bad because you don't conform.
That's brutal. And also, I feel that I was
Yeah.
also one of those kids that was like sent to the school psychiatrist and the school therapist many a times to be like, why aren't you behaving properly? Why aren't you acting like the other girls in class? How come you
Yeah.
can't make friends? How come we can't
Mm-hmm.
diagnose you with anything properly? Is it because you're using the girl version of grading things?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like medical transition care is real and needed for a lot of us, but also it's basically treated as a last resort option they try to keep from us. They will
Hmm.
try absolutely anything else first, even when we directly tell them what we need.
I think it's also important to, like, speaking to what Kent said, it's like children throughout their school careers are treated in such specifically gendered ways
Oh, yeah.
in terms
Yes,
of how they're
yes.
supposed to act, how they're
Mm,
supposed to behave.
Even what subjects you're supposed to like or find interesting or be good at.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I found myself gravitating towards like science and like icky things. Like I grew up in middle school, I started doing beekeeping. Like I wasn't supposed to like bugs and creepy
Right.
things, and everybody thought I was very much the weird kid a lot of the times. I was the quiet one that was like reading like college books in like middle school, and everybody was like, "What's wrong with this person?" But yeah, it's always something like I feel like I've known I was trans or like that there was something wrong with like the way that society was perceiving me since I was like 5, I think was the first time I had like a spike in dysphoria that was like notable.
Yeah.
Is probably 5 years old. So since I was 5, I've been getting, you're not like the other girls, are you? You're the only girl in the room in the robotics club. Like that came up a lot. And sometimes it was, we're so proud of you. Look at you trailblazing.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, why do you think I'm thriving in an area that is unique to you?
Yeah.
It's always interesting. The adults look at it and they're sort of like, wow, the young go-getter is doing the masculine things. Like she'll have a great career someday. It's like I've been trying to tell you who and what I am
Yeah.
forever, but society kind of gives women and girls that pass, at least nowadays, to do some masculine things.
Right.
Like you're a unique woman or a unique girl when you like that stuff.
Well, sure, because masculinity is treated as the goal, the
The
most
goal,
wonderful thing that
yeah.
everyone should want to be like. And so, like for me, it was the opposite way. Like when I was a kid, and I've mentioned this on this show a few times before, but like when I was really little, when we went to visit my grandma and my great aunt, I would dress up in like their dresses and put on their high
Mm.
heels and their costume jewelry and walk around and say that I was a pretty girl, and everyone would laugh. And
Hmm.
then I got to the age where they said, it's not funny anymore.
It's
You
not,
have to
yeah.
stop. And I was
Hmm.
heartbroken, right? But I was only allowed to do it because it was a joke to them. And as soon
Yeah,
as they thought I
yeah.
was serious about it, forget it. No, absolutely not. Because
That's
femininity is
heartbreaking.
to be derided and nobody should want that. And it's, yeah, our society is so messed up.
Yeah,
It's all being weird. Stop
yeah,
being
it's stop
weird.
being
Yeah, there it is
clothes are
again.
just pieces of cloth that we've stitched together
Right?
in a specific shape. That's all they
Yes.
are.
Let people wear what they
Let
want.
people wear what they want. Like all clothing is gender neutral if you're not scared of it. Like
Exactly right. Okay, 4 minutes, 13 seconds. Taffy wants Lisa to use her tanning bed. What is a tanning bed? It is a thing you use to fake a real thing you might otherwise have. It is a way to conform to a visual aesthetic that society says is pleasing. My friends, that is gender affirming care. Fine for the cis, but just not for us non-conformo transes. Check out Cis People Get Gender Affirming Healthcare too in episode 22 to learn more. But remember that the tanning bed is gender affirming care in metaphor, and watch what happens.
Mhm.
4 minutes, 22 seconds. Taffy turns Lisa's head, forces her to look at herself in the mirror. Look at Lisa's miserable face again. Taffy, you're in need, babe. Lisa is in need, but not of the lies society offers. Look at the difference on their faces. Lisa is not a person who likes what she's hearing. 4 minutes, 29 seconds. Lisa opens the shed and is bathed in pink light. Using this will only force gender conformity on her, or so she thinks. 4 minutes, 32 seconds. The shed is awash in pink light, but there's a lot of blue inside. And remember what the two together means. Yar, there be transness here. The lights leading to the shed are yellow, red, and that same green-blue. The fear and danger of dysphoria have led her to this point. When you examine why you have those feelings, they can lead you to a solution. Transition, hey, here in handy shed form. More specifically, I believe this transition shed represents hormone replacement therapy. I'll explain why toward the end of the film, but listen to episode 110 of the show if you want to learn more about HRT. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Look at her bathing suit, clashing in colors and patterns. Her love of self, all the warnings she's picked up on, her sadness and her dysphoria have brought her to this point. Behind her, the blue wall with the silhouettes of pink cheerleaders. Transness. The tanning bed is blue and pink. Transness. The tanning bed brand is Kiss of Life. Kisses equal love and they bring true life. Loving yourself carries you to living your truth. 4 minutes and 46 seconds. When the tanning bed closes, looking much like a coffin, it lights up
Yeah.
with the dysphoria green-blue. It zaps her and she screams. It didn't work because it was, in effect, set to the wrong hormones. The promise stops playing with the zap, But that zap is important. It's her realizing that trying to conform to this woman she's told she has to be is really wrong for her.
Oh wow. Set to the wrong hormones.
Yeah.
That's I think I can relate to that. When I was growing up, like I was put on hormonal birth control, and I remember shaking and my mom yelling at me to take it because I my menstruation cycles used to be incredibly abnormal and painful. So
Yeah.
the doctor was like, you need to take these because they will get rid of the pain. They will sort out this problem that you have. And I remember being told like, oh, and your figure will fill out more and you'll look a lot more like, because I was a late bloomer as well, which
And
to me I
that
was
was the
fine with.
last thing you wanted.
And
Yeah.
so I remember in the bathroom shaking and crying with the pill in my hand, and my
Oh.
mom just being like, "Do you want to be in pain? Just take it." And she's like yelling at me because
Oh.
she is a wonderful, supportive person now, but she could not figure out why I was so afraid to take these. And yeah, I remember taking the wrong hormones for quite a couple years, and I hated it, and I found myself in a very dark part of my life while taking those. It
Yeah.
actively made stuff worse, physically and mentally for me. And one day I quit them cold turkey, and I stopped refilling my prescription for them, and I wouldn't tell anybody why. And after like a month or two of getting that out of my system, things did improve, not fully, but I stopped taking the wrong hormones.
Yeah.
Contrasting that with HRT, it was an instant relief. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, there it is. That's the
Yeah.
one.
Like we talked about in the last episode, when my estrogen stopped working when I was on the pills, and that caused my testosterone to rise, and that is the wrong hormone for me. And that was the exact same thing. I felt so awful in my body, in my mind, everything. It was just wrong and broken, and I couldn't think, and I didn't feel like myself, like my identity was being stripped away from me. It was wild. It's wild what the wrong hormones for your body will do to you.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of cis people think that we're just like pretending or we're just putting on a
Right?
costume.
Yeah.
But even the like chemical stuff in our body that's going on, like that medication, it is real. It does physically and mentally affect us. The body is a system, the brain is part of that system.
Yep.
Chemicals are real, psychology is real, and it's like anything else in your body. If you don't have the right balance of stuff, it's going to not work right. And
It's gonna mess you up.
trans people
Yeah.
aren't making it up. Not all trans people need medical transition, but for
Right.
those of us that do,
It's
we're
vital.
not making it
Yeah.
up. It is truly vital. It has saved my life. It has saved the lives of my friends. That is
Yeah.
not a joke.
Not a joke at all. 4 minutes, 52 seconds. As they drive to the party, Taffy apologizes for her tanning bed electrocuting Lisa, who replies, "I'm fine." Is she? Look at her face. She's miserable. And no wonder, look at her top. The pattern on it is in the dysphoria green-blue. Trying to be a woman, again, only covered her in even more dysphoria. 5 minutes. Taffy asks how Lisa likes Brookview so far. No, not for nothing, but I described my own gender dysphoria, which I talked about in episode 59, as being like drowning, and other trans folks have likened it to similar things. In view of a brook means you can see the water, i.e., I have not escaped dysphoria even though I moved to a new place. In the same dead monotone as before, Lisa again says, "It's fine. It's the same as my old school." Running from your dysphoria doesn't make it go away. It follows you everywhere, and it makes you feel dead inside. 5 minutes, 17 seconds. Taffy asks if Lisa's hot for anyone, and Lisa whispers, "Michael Trent." Now remember that Michael means like God, and God is love. Lisa's attracted to him because she loves him, or is it because she loves the kind of man
Oh,
she thinks
yep.
he is?
Been there, done that.
I don't know how to tell you this, cis folks, but for a good number of gay, bi, non-straight trans people, part
hmm
of the difficulty in figuring out we're trans is in wondering if we're into someone because we're attracted to them or because we want to be them. It can be
Yeah,
both.
big yes.
See, Sexuality is Not Gender in episode 73 for more. You've been there, eh?
Oh, painfully so, yes.
Same. Yeah. Lisa's going to struggle to figure out that very thing for most of the movie. Lisa says Michael's the editor of the school literary magazine. Do you remember what we saw Frank doing in the opening animation besides playing the piano? Reading. Lisa sees in Michael something she recognizes from the man inside. 5 minutes, 56 seconds. Taffy talks about how great the party will be, and Lisa says it's just off of Bluff Road. Bluffs are lies. Supertext. And they could have walked. Taffy says that is too far to walk in jellies. Those are wacko shoes from the 80s, kids. Look them up. And it would have hurt her feet. But the important part is that Taffy is more concerned with appearances than functionality, which, by the way, is what society forces on women all the time with things like corsets and high heels and makeup that makes it so you can't hardly touch your own face without ruining it. Again. It is fine to like those things if you're a woman. I do, but it is wrong for society to make it a requirement for being the right kind of woman. Lisa says there's a shortcut through the forest, through Bachelor's Grove. Taffy says that's the haunted cemetery, a place for dead things and tormented souls. Lisa, it's not haunted, it's just abandoned. Hey, that's her heart, remember? Supertext. And then she smiles as she says, desecrated. Is that a thing to smile about? She clearly likes something about whatever's in there. 6 minutes, 20 seconds. Taffy says she heard the Heschers did witchcraft there and that Gina Marzak dedicated her unborn child to Satan there. Now listen, Gina can be derived from several different names, but one of those is Virginia, which means virgin. And given that Taffy references the name in relation to an unborn child, it feels like a safe bet. So the cis view of the place where they force us to lock our true selves away from the world, where people have autonomy, listen, people can do whatever they want with their own bodies, even if you don't agree with it, it's evil and no one should go there. According to much of our society, bodily autonomy is for cis white men only, whether you're talking about abortion rights or trans rights, and they are the same fight. See episode 55 on bodily autonomy for more on that.
Oh, yeah.
Lisa says she's never seen anybody else there. Being trans and dysphoric is lonely. You might think you're the only one who has these feelings if you've not been taught that we exist, which is why Republicans are fighting so hard to erase us from history and public life again. And there is a long history of trans people being erased from, well, history. Learn more in Trans History 1, How and Why We Name Trans People in History in episode 79. 6 minutes, 30 seconds. In a flashback, Lisa is reading at the base of Frank's grave, dressed in red. Deep in her heart, she knows she still has love for her true self. Do note the flowers next to her, the small bundle of red and white daisies. I will remind you about them near the end of the movie. She says she does wax rubbings of all the tombstones. Frank's is her favorite. She does rubbings to remember him. She doesn't want to forget him. But pay attention to how his name is broken on the tombstone so you can't read it, and neither can Lisa. She doesn't know his name and won't until she becomes him and chooses one. 6 minutes, 59 seconds. In another flashback, Lisa, now wearing green, brings Frank a rosary with a crucifix that was her dead mom's. Why would she bring that to the grave of a strange man, do you think? But look at the beads. They are danger, fear, and despair. There is a crucifix attached, emblematic of sacrifice. That's why it was her mom's rosary and why she leaves it at Frank's grave. This is when Lisa sacrificed her true self because of the fear, danger, and dysphoria her mother caused. And this gets confirmed in a bit. Notice here that her top is green like the forest. By sacrificing her true self, she is going to blend into her surroundings. She's going to go girl mode, even if it kills her inside to do so. Episode 74 of this podcast on boymoding and girlmoding has more info on that if you need it. Also, the book she was reading and that she leaves him is titled Shelley's Poems. This is not just a nod to Frankenstein author Mary Shelley. It will also be relevant again at the end of the film. Just remember that she left it with the man in her heart.
So was that a collection of Percy Shelley's works?
It
'Cause
is.
Mary
Yes, we find out.
published a lot of his poetry for him on his behalf. So technically, Mary Shelley was the one probably publishing that book of poems. Like that's probably her doing, which is
I love
interesting.
that info because that is extra. Ooh, that's
Yes,
extra transy.
Percy Shelley, Byron, all of them are very, very bisexual. They were all kind
Yes,
of camping out in a house together when Frankenstein was written.
right.
So yeah, that's the famous story of they were all telling ghost stories and challenged each other to write their own. So that's how we get the vampire through Byron and Polidori working together and a lot of Percy's poetry and all that before his death and then published afterwards. So, and then Frankenstein, obviously.
That is wonderful information that I did not know. 7 minutes, 13 seconds. Taffy. That's really weird, Lisa. Cis people think us even talking about the smallest hint of our complicated gender feelings is weird. Lisa. I just don't think anyone should be forgotten. That includes our true selves buried deep inside. 7 minutes, 22 seconds. Taffy's car is bright red. Danger, Lisa. Maybe not now, but beware. Head Over Heels by Blue Peter plays. Let's have a look at some lyrics. Swept away, I think I'm gonna fall. Late last night when I got your call. Round and round my head, I still hear your voice. You say stay, I guess I've got no choice. Just like a favorite song or a pretty face, when you're gone, I'm still hungry for the taste. Building up the walls to keep the world outside. Out on the streets, we'll take the world for a ride. The city's on fire, we live for the smoke. I feel the heat when you get this close. Across the table, I light your cigarette. Just another story I could never forget. Head over heels, I'm falling fast. Head over heels, will this romance last? If we continue to interpret the quote-unquote romance as loving yourself enough to transition, you get a song wondering if there's any hope for self-actualization in the future and closing off from the world because being yourself out there is dangerous. 7 minutes, 28 seconds. Look at the lights at the party. They are all green-blue. Dysphoria awaits you here. Taffy goes right over to the other girls. They talk about hair and girly things, and Lisa rolls her eyes and hangs back, alone, uncomfortable. Super common for trans people to feel this way at the thought of being perceived and being forced to pretend to be someone you're not. The Matrix, see my book, Begin Transmission, in episode 26 of this show, and Real Genius, starting in episode 103. They both feature this exact same event. 7 minutes and 52 seconds. Lisa walks past some boisterous jocks in red. Danger, she flinches at their stereotypical displays of tough man masculinity. But also, those are often the types of people who punish us most for not conforming. And there is a boy in a pink and blue shirt just standing there, looking at them, following them around silently. We already know she's not into those kinds of guys. That's not the kind of man she wants to be or is. But she's worried that she'd have to follow in those footsteps. For what it's worth, Barbie, which I talked about in episodes 61 to 68, deals with that sort of bullshit on a macro level. If society says a woman or a man is X and I'm not X, does that mean I'm not quote-unquote really a woman or a man? 8 minutes and 23 seconds. Look at Lisa's reaction when she meets the kind of guy she thinks she does want to be, the famed Michael Trent. She's panting, excitement, an encounter with seemingly the kind of person she always wished she was. And look at his shirt.
The
A
shirt.
picture of Friedrich Nietzsche with the quote, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how."
That's a red flag. You find a guy at the party with a Nietzsche shirt on, and you're like, he's interesting, but maybe distance is needed.
Well, that quote can be read as living for the he you want to be can help you do things you never thought was possible. See Trans Motivation in episode 56. Now, Nietzsche was a philosopher and a complicated person, to put it mildly. But among many things, he was known for claiming, quote, the Christian faith as practiced was not a proper representation of Jesus' teachings, as it forced people to merely believe in the way of Jesus, but not to act as Jesus did. There's a link about Nietzsche in the show notes if you're not familiar with him. But remember Taffy saying things in Bachelor's Grove / Lisa's heart were satanic. Remember Lisa had her mom's rosary. These women who claimed to believe in quote-unquote goodness were themselves anything but. Nietzsche also, quote, became increasingly preoccupied with the creative powers of the individual to overcome cultural and moral mores in pursuit of new values and aesthetic health.
Ah, yes, the whole God is dead, all that.
Yes, and there are trans things, and then there are transy things. Super text. 8 minutes, 36 seconds. Michael tells her she submitted good poems, even though they're, quote, pitch black. Things are dark indeed from deep inside Dysphoria. But remember that Lisa and the Color Black is about change and transition. She was writing about her complicated gender feelings. 9 minutes. Lori, bathed in yellow firelight, asks Taffy what happened to Lisa because she's quote-unquote heard stuff. Rumors that she's, transy. Taffy says she can't talk about it because she promised not to, but then does anyway.
And
That's
totally
the most
does.
amazing thing.
You got to give that hot goss on us transes and not respect our privacy.
Oh yeah, no, that comes up with again with cis people not being weird. I
Right?
that's such an apt, just like, don't be weird, guys. Just I find this with people that want to be extra supportive is they just want to celebrate us, and that's really wonderful and
Yeah.
appreciated. But to the extent that some people feel they need to tell everybody, like, I know a trans person, aren't I
And they just
cool?
out us to strangers and people we
It's
weren't
like,
ready to
here's my
tell yet.
trans friend. It's like,
Yep.
hi, why did you need to say that? It's like you don't say, hi, this is my tall friend. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
good for
That's
them.
me.
Eh?
Okay.
So,
Yeah. But already we see the betrayal and why Taffy's car is red, and this foreshadows her later
mhm.
much more severe betrayal. And that will do it for this week. Thanks for being here, Kent.
Absolutely.
Next week, we get into how horribly things can go wrong when we trust the wrong person to come out to, and how figuring out who we don't want to be can lead us to who we do. Tilly Bridges, end transmission. Tilly's Trans Tuesdays is hosted by Tilly Bridges and Susan Bridges, with audio editing and sound mixing by Jillian Morgan. The written essay version of this week's topic and all past topics is available at tillystranstuesdays.com. Special thanks to Daisy and Jane for the use of Sorry Not Sorry as our show's theme music. Please stop by and show your support at daisyandjane.bandcamp.com and soundcloud.com/daisyandjane. You can find me at Tilly Bridges on Blue Sky and on Mastodon at tillybridges at mastodon.social, and you can find Susan on those at Susan L. Bridges. You can find Jillian at Audio Jillian on Blue Sky. You can join the Tillyverse Discord server by following the link at the very bottom of tillystranstuesdays.com. We hold regular watch parties for the Matrix films and other trans movies where I do a live Q&A, and it's blossomed into a wonderfully supportive, compassionate, kind community of friends. We'd love to have you join us. If you'd like to keep up with all the writing that Susan and I do, you can sign up for our newsletter at birdguestbroadcast.com. If you enjoy this show, please take a moment to leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. The largest segment of our listeners find the show there, and more reviews equals a higher profile, which means it will reach more of the people who need it. Thank you for your support. For more information, visit pendantaudio.com. Thanks for listening.